Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The New World. And in today's video, we discuss the surprisingly early exit to the Los Angeles Lakers this season and recap the most surprising trade in NBA history and how the outcome of it was for the Lakers. But before we answer that question, make sure to hit that subscribe button and help us on the way to 10K subs, and comment your thoughts on the Lakers' early exit and what moves should they make in the offseason to try and make another run for a championship in the LeBron era. Fellas, what are your thoughts on the Lakers' early first-round exit? What do you think the reason was for this? And what should be Rob Pelinka's moves to, quote-unquote, do anything we can to help LeBron win another ring, as Pelinka stated after their early playoff exit?
I will say to start off that you asked, how do we feel about the exit? I feel joy, excitement, exhilaration, exuberance. But like he mentioned, the LeBron James era. The LeBron James era has been pretty disappointing. If we really just want to call a spade, this nigga won one championship on his Lakers team. That championship not a real championship. Get at me in the comments if you want to. That 2020 bubble championship against a 6th seed, a 5th or 5th seed Miami Heat team, not a real championship. But anyway, in the LeBron era, they do now have one Luka Doncic, an all-time great talent. I'm not going to say an all-time great player, but an all-time great talent. And what they have, Jay, Buffy, is they have a 40-year-old man who he can have all of the spectacular highlights he has, but over time, especially in the postseason, his age just starts to show. You cannot rely on a 40-year-old to be your top 2 best player on a championship winning team. Cannot, because LeBron James is still an all-time great athlete, but he's going to be basically giving up some aspect of his game, sacrificing some portion of his game. Whether he's sacrificing on offense, which is what he did in the postseason this year, he mainly allocated his energy spent on defense because they have, as my boy Jay said, a walking cone. 2 walking cones and one Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, who I will get to in a bit. But it's either that, or if he's spending all of his energy on offense, which he did with Anthony Davis, then his defense is a huge roadblock for this team. So that's number one, the LeBron James element of it. I don't really want to put a lot of blame on him. I really want to center more of my focus towards his fans, because his fans want to continue to talk about how great he is at 40 and all this other shit, but they don't want to bring up those nuances that I talked about. Now let's talk about what the biggest problem is. Luka Doncic is not a championship level player. He's not. And I have to give all of the credit to my boy Buff, because he was saying this last year when this team made it to the finals of the Dallas Mavericks about how he's not buying stock in the Luka Doncic hype. And what I have seen over this season and since the NBA Finals has proven him correct. We talked about Nico Harrison being a prophet. My brother Buffy has been a prophet as well about this Luka Doncic dialogue, because I have not seen any growth, and I don't think I'm going to see any growth. Let's walk it down, shall we? For one, he continues to be out of shape. Niggas wanted to say that he lost 10 to 20 pounds. I don't really see it. I don't. Maybe he lost 5 pounds. I don't really see it. But he's still overweight and out of shape. And when you're 26 in your prime, if people want to pay close attention, go from last year to this year. Yes, he was injured. Yes, he didn't play the entire season, but production went down. It went down. It's just evident. His defense is anemic. It's not even existent. It's bad. And he continues to cry and whine at the refs. That's not going to change either. So things that we said after the finals, because when you're in the NBA Finals, not only is your greatness, because what did the great Walt Clyde Frazier say? The regular season is where you make your name, but the playoffs is where you make your fame. In the postseason, in the finals, on the biggest stage, we will see all of your successes, but we also get to hone in on your flaws. So by honing in on your flaws, we were able to see all of the things that Luka Doncic is very poor at, because they got gentlemen swept by the Boston Celtics. So we saw his poor attitude, we saw his lack of conditioning, we saw his lack of effort and his lack of leadership. All of those things came to the forefront, and we said in order for this guy to be what we think that his talent suggests that he should be, he has to improve on all of these things. And can anybody tell me with a straight face that Luka Doncic has improved on all of those categories that I've mentioned? He is not. And I don't think he's going to, because he's been coddled. Everybody continues to tell this guy how great he is. And I will give JJ Redick some credit after the season. He did say, some niggas got to get in shape. JJ Redick, the only thing I need you to do is put a name on that. Luka Doncic is the one that needs to get in shape, brother. He's the one that needs to get in shape. You're only talking about one person. One person. So I don't see him improving. Another guy, everybody was telling me, oh man, he's the best third option in NBA. Austin Reeves was a no-show in this playoffs because you got to do a few things with him. Put athletic guys on him to guard him. You're gonna strap him. You're gonna strap him. You're gonna strap him up. I don't want to hear about no injury. I don't want to hear anything about no damn injury. His ass was getting strapped by Mike Conley, a 6'1" point guard who is 38 years of age. He was getting strapped, and that's because if you put some athleticism on him, some good defense on him, he can't get downhill. And we've seen all the tape. We get to focus on your strengths, and we want to expose your flaws. That's what the Minnesota Timberwolves did. The Minnesota Timberwolves were just a better constructed team because it's not about being top heavy. What we're noticing through this postseason in the last few years is that top heavy, the Stars, the Phoenix Suns of the world, and to a lesser degree, teams like the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors, teams like that don't win championships anymore. You got to build a complete roster, and that's what the Minnesota Timberwolves have. Anthony Edwards didn't even really play all that great. He was spotty in that playoff series, but Julius Randle and Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo and all of these auxiliary pieces, Jaden McDaniels, came to play because they are good players and they have good coaching. That was my biggest takeaway from this playoff series was that Los Angeles Lakers, they got out-coached and they got outplayed and they got out-hustled by a better team. And in my opinion, a team that consists of LeBron James and Luka Doncic as the two best players cannot win a championship. So I don't really care what they do. I want them to continue to lose from the standpoint of, because when they made this trade, it only took a few games for niggas to say that this team was going to win a championship. Like, that's literally what people were telling me. And my boy Jay was getting frustrated, and I understood his frustration, but all I was telling you, Jay, was that these fans are dumb. Like, the media, they're dumbasses because they just see a little bit of a win streak. But when we see teams like the Cavs and teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder have these win streaks, we're like, oh, they're not going to do anything in the postseason. They're too young. They're too inexperienced. They show their biases with that. And I said, a lot of people are going to pick the Lakers to win just because of who is on the team and just because of the logo on the jersey. That's what we saw. And they got exposed for the frauds they were because all that defensive scheming that JJ Redick was doing in the regular season was an aberration. Guys just weren't making shots. They just weren't making shots. They were giving up wide open shots and guys weren't hitting them. In the Minnesota Timberwolves series, they were getting those wide open shots and they were able to knock them down. Even though they didn't even shoot all that well in a few of these games. They just won because they were better. And playing LeBron James at the 5 is not going to win you any games. So I could go on for an eternity about the series and what went wrong, but I'm going to pass it off to my boys because anybody that knows ball knows that this team was never a serious contender to win a championship. If you actually know basketball and are not just on social media all day and watching goofies like, Shannon Sharp and all of these bum-ass media personalities give their takes because of their god, LeBron James, and their other guy, their demigod, Luka Doncic, is on the team. They're not a serious franchise, in my humble opinion. So I'm glad that they got put out in round 1. They deserve to get put out in round 1 because they just were not good enough.
So with the way the Los Angeles Lakers lost that series, I feel like there's a lot of holes to fill on this kind of burgeoning but yet kind of flawed style of play that they have and like this team that they have, like the roster. First of all, I think it starts, you got to look at the coach. JJ Redick did not have a good showing in this playoffs. I think he showed his ass, especially in the interviews. He definitely showed his ego in the playoffs with not playing Jackson Hayes, not even a little bit. Like when the problem was like in game 5 and Rudy Gobert is like going up. Rudy Gobert, was terrible for like the first 4 games of the series. Game 5, he has it going. There's nobody to guard him. He's like, not playing any big. We still don't put in like Jackson Hayes for like even like a second. It was already predetermined that Jackson Hayes was gonna have a DNP that game. I thought that was on coaching. We're gonna put in a guy like Maxi Kleber who hasn't practiced with the team, and we're gonna put him in to play playoff minutes for the Los Angeles Lakers. The biggest team in the NBA. I thought that was a joke. I thought JJ Redick disappointed. Looking at this team, they definitely have their flaws. I thought as Mal already alluded to, their defense was very, very fraudulent. After the Luka trade, they were like number one for like a good portion of the season. But I knew that was going to wear off because they were allowing so many 3-point attempts. And even in the series, they got away with a lot of open threes that they were giving up to the Minnesota Timberwolves, just because Minnesota Timberwolves weren't really hitting outside of really game one. So that's another thing that defense needs reworking. Now, what I think they need to do is definitely get a big man. I know Lakers fans are talking about Nick Claxton or Jared Allen. I much prefer Jared Allen, because I think he can stifle some of those bigs, especially in the West, in the paint. More than Nick Claxton, who's kind of has like a skinnier frame. Besides that, Austin Reeves kind of has to go. You can package Austin Reeves up. He's kind of worked his ass off for his value to be pretty high. Lakers, the Lakers are already hearing trade talks with him. So I think that is definitely the next way to go. You want to round out this team because another flaw that they did have in the playoffs was their bench. The bench did not score, and Minnesota's basically their depth lineup consisted of around 2 to 3 bench players from their team. So that was kind of the difference in the series. With the style that the Lakers play, it's not like they get a lot of people involved. It's like, they're playing a lot of minutes, and that goes on to JJ Redick for, I believe it was game 4. He had, the lineup with like the starting lineup plus, I think it was Dorian Finney-Smith, and for like the entire game, I think it was like something like that, like the entire second half, like it was like no substitutions. No coach has ever done that. It's like JJ Redick, this is not NBA 2K. We can't just turn fatigue off in the settings. Like fatigue plays a factor in these playoff games, and when your best player is already out of shape, and he's like, we've already, like, I think JJ Redick even said we coming off this playoff loss, we got to get in better shape, we got to get in more condition. I think he was probably throwing shade of Luka Doncic, and your second best player is 40 years old, so there's not much you can really ask for him. And Austin Reeves isn't physically opponent, so it's like there's flaws in this team construction. They can definitely make moves. I think the interior. I still don't think with these moves they can win a championship. So I just don't think. I don't really see LeBron James winning his 5th championship. As many of y'all like LeBron James, I just can't really see it. I think he hangs him up on 4, which is still all time great. But I think he hangs him up on 4 championships. With that being said, I don't want Lakers fans really blaming Rob Pelinka for the construction of this team. He did his part in at least getting Luka Doncic. I feel like he kind of deserves that, even though, maybe or maybe not. We already kind of addressed this in, NBA draft video. Adam Silver kind of had a deal on the table. We don't know. So I'm not going to put that out there, but we don't know if there was a deal on the table for that, because I think it definitely sounds promising. So the Lakers are cooked. I knew they was cooked. Y'all can check out earlier videos about Luka Doncic. I knew what Luka Doncic was last year, and he didn't disappoint me. He showed me who he was. Number one defense talk, and they was like, I think I remember some Twitter accounts saying, Luka Doncic, he in the finals, he played better defense than Jason Tatum, and I was like, no, he didn't. He was a cone, and there's clips of him being a cone. The only thing that was helping him was the rim protection. That was the only thing that helped Luka Doncic last year. And if you're going to construct a team with Luka Doncic, you have to have a rim protector, because you have to hide his deficiencies. He can't play any defense. He can't slide his feet. Jaden McDaniels went off this series because Luka Doncic, was guarding him, and he did a shitty job. They can't play him even in the zone. They can't even hide him in the zone. They're playing. I think they was playing like a 3-2 or a 2-3 zone one time, and I think the Minnesota Timberwolves, they just made like a couple swing passes. They got it out to Jaden McDaniels. He just kind of walked into the paint and had a little dunk. Luka Doncic was guarding him. He was expecting help side defense, and Luka bitched and complained about there's nobody to pick up. My nigga, you can at least provide a resistance. You can't just let them go to the rim. I don't know if he understands that. maybe I think his time in Dallas kind of helped coddle him because they had a really good scheme. I have to give Jason Kidd the credit for that. They had a good scheme for to make the number one rated offense last year in the Boston Celtics shoot that badly. They had a really good scheme, so you got to give him credit for that. But Luka Doncic is who he is. He's not who people think he is. People think he's on this Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo level. I didn't even think he was better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you rewatch that series that the OKC Thunder had with Dallas Mavericks, SGA was the best player in the series on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. So I don't think he's better than him. So I think he's definitely overrated by this fanfic of people on social media who have this guy as one of the greatest talents we've ever seen. I mean, he definitely is that, but he's definitely not as good as what we think he is. So the Lakers, as of now, they are entering purgatory, and it will be definitely interesting to see how this rolls out, especially with Luka Doncic getting the contract, and LeBron James seemingly understanding that his chances of winning a championship are dire, and I don't think LeBron James is the type to necessarily retire on a playoff exit surprise. But that farewell tour coming up, bro. It's coming up, bro. The clock is ticking. Realistically, the clock is on 11:55. So we're approaching that time. LeBron, you gotta look in the mirror, man, and probably hang that up. I've seen people say, he wanted to play with Bryce. It's not happening. Bryce is an NBA player. If that happens, I'll stop watching basketball because it's just a soap opera. It's a soap opera. Like basketball at that point would be a better soap opera than Star Wars is. It's crazy. So I'm passing to JC if he has any more comments.
Yeah, man. The Lakers, right now it's looking like they're cooked. I don't blame this on Rob Pelinka. I think he did, his best. He gave LeBron another superstar, so you can't be mad. I mean, he tried his best, and honestly, the superstar that he did give him, he just is a walking cone. Like Bardo said, the brother on defense, he don't slide them things, and it was exposed by basically one of the biggest teams of all time on the Lakers, during the playoffs. And this was a team that everybody had the Lakers winning. They had them in 6 and 7. And we had people have them in 5. We know the infamous Lakers in 5. And they definitely got bounced out in 5, just not the way that everybody else, thought it would happen. But, Luka on defense, I mean, it was just horrible. Even though, it's cool he scored 37 and 8 or whatever, but all the points he was giving up on offense, I mean, he was just giving them right back to the Timberwolves on defense. Jay McDaniels was going to work. Ant was going to work. I don't even know why Luka was guarding Ant so many times as he did. Because he was Ant, it was just like a light switch in his head, I'm going to go to work. And Julius Randle, giving credit to him, I mean, he was going to work on the Lakers. Really on defense too. He was, giving Luka a lot of, body contact, and he was doing a lot of complaining. I really hate it when Luka does that. He'll, just give up on a defense possession. Everybody else back on defense, he's just complaining off to the refs. I really hate it. But, the Lakers this season, it was definitely a failure. LeBron even said himself, he said he thought they was going to the finals. So, and honestly, I thought when, Luka coming to the Lakers, I'm like, okay, Luka there. Bron probably finna stay in the league a little longer than I thought. But now, with how bad Luka was playing and how bad they lost, Bron might be leaving earlier than we thought, honestly. And, kind of like what Buffy was saying, everybody's thinking that he's staying for Bryce. But, right now, they ain't looking like the option that'll happen. Honestly, it might look like that farewell tour might come a little earlier than expected. And right now, Austin Reeves, they got him on the table because they can only offer him with the Lakers cap. They can only offer him 2 years, $89 million. And we know Austin Reeves probably going to ask for more than that. So what they finna do with him, I don't know. But how he played in that series, I mean, he was really making everybody who was saying he's the best role player in the league. He was looking like the best third option. He was looking better than Bradley Beal. He's really making us eat our words. Like on defense, he was getting cooked. You know, on offense, he wasn't there majority of that series, and you know it was kind of a punch in the face to everybody who was giving him all these compliments because he wasn't there. But the Lakers, under the LeBron James era, I hate to say it. No, I really don't hate to say it. I love to say it for all these Lakers fans. Y'all not winning a championship with LeBron James on your team. Like, even though this year I said LeBron James for majority of the season was playing like an MVP. Like he was playing like an MVP candidate. Like he was hooping. But dude, in the playoff series, dude, he looks his age. Like he looks older, bro. He looks fatigued. Like he would give his all first 3 quarters. Come fourth quarter, gas. Barely taking shots. And it was a game where he had like 36 or 38 or something. And he was shooting the ball. I'm like, Bron really shoot that thing. And then after a while, he just stopped shooting the ball and he was just giving the ball up. And I'm like, bro, LeBron, what are you doing? And I was like, okay, he must be fatigued. Like he just gave up the ball, and that basically gave up the game because they were closing back on, making a run to, either tie the game up or win the game when LeBron was hooping like that. But, he was looking his age. And, I get it. Everybody was like, why are you putting all these minutes on LeBron James? But if you really look across that bench and you see who's on it, I understand it. Like, first of all, LeBron got to play center because they got a 7-1, player who's just, ass. Like, you 7-1 for nothing. You can't defend and you can't do nothing on the offensive end. Like, you're struggling with Rudy Gobert. You was making Shaq say Rudy Gobert was dominant. Like, I create, like, Shaq ain't even want to say that, but Shaq said Rudy Gobert was dominating. Because that's what he was doing. Like, and then you got Gabe Vincent. You never know when he's going to shoot the ball well. Let's see. Dorian Finney-Smith, he was the only person that came off the bench that was actually doing something. But that team, they weren't built to win a championship. They weren't. Like, everybody was solely relying on, the scoring of the big three. Bron, Luka, and AR. And that did not turn out well. Everybody just forgot. No, they didn't forget. They just factored out the defensive part. They just said, to hell with it. We'll just get it back in, on the offensive end. And right now it's looking like if they had AD, they would have had a better chance at winning. Because the defense, it does matter. Like Nico Harrison said, defense wins championships. Well, that's your prime example right there. So, also one thing, JJ Redick, I think he did a good job with elevating these guys throughout the season. But in this series, he definitely looked like he was kind of didn't really know what he was doing as far as coaching, leaving those that starting 5 or the 5 guys out there for the rest of the second half. And, he did look a little rattled. We can kind of see that in the press conferences as well. So, but he was playing with, what cards he was dealt with anyways. So I think he did. To some point, he did, good with that team, but a first round exit, that's not a good look, especially when you're coming off of what Darvin Ham did. He took them to West Conference Finals, his first season. But like I said, man, LeBron on this team, for their future, it's not going to work out, bro. They're not going to win a championship. Like, and people, when it comes to critiquing LeBron, they only want to hear good things. It's never nothing bad. Like, okay, I get it. He's 40, 41, whatever. Like, if he plays bad, it's got to be, something has to be said about it because it has something to do with the game. It changes the momentum of the game. Like, it's times where Bron wasn't even taking shots, for like game 5, 4, and 3, he wasn't taking no shots. So, like, that stuff mattered for that team. And yeah, he had 48 minutes, but LeBron James, when you talk about who can play that long, we're probably most likely going to say LeBron James like 9 times out of 10. So, like, y'all can stop with all the, he's 40. So, I mean, he's playing at such a high level. Like, you got to critique him if he's playing bad. I don't care if he's 40. Like, it doesn't matter. Same thing with, Steph. We're going to critique him if he has a bad shooting night. Or KD, if he was in the playoffs and he had a bad shooting night, he was getting locked up, you're going to critique him. Like, just because these guys are older, if they're still playing at a high level, you can't just, go on and talk about how good they're playing if they playing bad too. Like with James Harden. I mean, even though he's known for, being a playoff choker, he played extremely horrible in game 7. He only took 8 shots. You supposed to be James Harden. You 36 and you hooping like you in your late 20s. Like, we're gonna critique you. So Lakers right now, they're not looking in a good situation. Right now it looked like they lost that trade, even though everybody thought they won that trade by a mile. But for right now, the Lakers, if they don't make a big move, this offseason, if they don't get some pieces, because they're gonna need defensive pieces to put around Luka, because he won't give it to you on the defensive end. So you're gonna have to get all defensive guys for him. That's the only way y'all win the championship. So if that don't happen, the Lakers, they'll just continue to be what ifs, and we'll continue to see Lakers fans treat them as if they were the Cowboys. So that's what we finna see from now on until the Lakers make some shape.
But hey, man, I have one more question for Buffy. Like, you got Lakers winning any championships in the Luka Doncic era?
I think that question is more so determined on, what contract Luka Doncic signs with the team. I think that's going to be the most important part of this ordeal, because when they traded for him, it was kind of obvious that this is the last year of Luka Doncic's deal. I think he wasn't eligible for the Supermax.
Yeah, I think he's eligible for a 4-2-24, something like that.
Yeah,
but
it's not Supermax.
Yeah, it's not.
But yeah, so that's going to be the thing. I don't know. I don't think Luka Doncic, like I said earlier, I don't think he's a championship style winning player. Especially with the way like the new NBA is heading. I think defense, especially perimeter defense, and this is kind of taking in it on itself, but I think weak perimeter defense, your teams can't win off that. I think it's honestly better nowadays for your team to have a weak interior defense, and you can see this with teams like the Denver Nuggets. Jokic, he's not really protecting the rim, but it's not like their perimeter defense is that bad. The Nuggets, their perimeter defense isn't that great, but it's acceptable. So I think you can't really win a championship with like a team that has a really bad perimeter, defenders all around. So the best thing they can do is surround him with other 3-and-D guys. But the question is, okay, if you're just looking at the timeline, you're gonna have to pair him up with somebody, or he's just gonna be balling out by himself. Because if they're threatening to trade Austin Reeves for assets, then LeBron James is gonna be out in a couple years. He's gonna retire in a couple years. So where's the timetable on Luka Doncic going to be? So I think that's a more interesting question, for the Lakers to kind of consider as they continue to moving on in the 10-year. And I think they'll kind of find that answer pretty soon, depending on what Rob Pelinka considers, should be next. I think what should be next is trading Austin Reeves for assets and trying to get a, start big. I think that's what they need really, really bad.